So, hi, this is the June PSA Summit speakers. Let's see if you see me. Speakers, virtual speakers, and I want online virtual speaking, and I want to introduce the first speaker. She's an awesome woman. Her name is Beth Taylor. Her career has stretched over 30 years as a counselor, then an executive coach. Having both perspectives, counselor and coach, she's able to pinpoint areas for development, identify strengths, and equip leaders quickly with the tools for implementing cognitive empathy into their leadership style and company culture. And I would like to give it over to Beth so that she can introduce herself and then give her speech. Go ahead, Beth.
Great, thank you. Thanks. First, I'm excited to be here. I had mentioned earlier that I'm in Colorado. I was traveling, so the altitude difference might make me a little, spacey. So I'm just going to jump right in, and I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay, and share. Okay. Just move these people. All right. So as Krystal mentioned, I'm talking about the neuroscience of empathy, and that's the empathy for leadership. So in, let's see, how do I get, I can't get the thing to move. Sorry about that. How do the screen's not moving. Uh-oh. Anyone have any ideas? There we go. Okay. So in 2015, on September 21st, Harvard Business Review published this article saying that empathy is still lacking in the leaders who need it most. The article went on to say that empathy is a skill. So I'm thinking, a skill. I don't know about that. Then, almost 5 years to the day later, on September 13th, 2020, Google reported that empathy was the most searched word since Google began in 2004. And the report went on to say that empathy is a much needed trait. So I'm thinking, trait or skill, which is it? And why does it matter? It matters because if you're someone like me, I'm a crybaby. I've been a crybaby my whole life. And recently, as you can see, I found out that I come from a whole long line of crybabies. And that's me in the middle, maybe the cutest. And so why does this matter? Because if you're a crybaby like I am, that means that you're probably wired for empathy, not wired for empathy, okay? You're the person that everyone goes to when there's a problem. You're the person that people count on for hugs and nurturing and non-judging. And sometimes you will even put yourself in a situation that's last. Example might be this. Let's say Krystal needs to borrow a car because her car is in the shop. I have an appointment, but so does she. I'm going to give her my car. And I will reschedule my appointment because when you're naturally, you have a trait for empathy, you tend to do that. So that's why it matters, because if it's a trait, you would think that crybabies make the best leaders, right? Not so much. And why is that? Because we want to please everybody. When you are naturally empathetic, you want to make sure people are happy. You want to make sure they're pleased. And when they're happy and pleased, so are you. So if you're a leader, like I have been in the past, I want to please my direct reports. So in Nashville, if it starts to snow, which is a big deal, if we get like half an inch, people get stuck in traffic. So I would say, go home for the day. Take care of yourself. And my upper manager would say, you can't do that. I can't go home. So therefore, as the leader, that choice was made through a different lens. And here's what I mean. Emotional empathy is when a person actually shares the feelings of another individual. And if you are like that, then you know that's not always great. Sad movies, I can't see them. I'm too sad. Compassionate empathy. That's when you want to step into action. That would be me giving Krystal the car. So those two kinds of empathy are actually produced in a different part of the brain. Oh. So that emotion is produced in the limbic system. You can see the blue, okay? That's where we produce our feelings. That's why storytelling in sales is so effective, because when you tell a story, it goes straight to that feeling part of the brain, and people go, oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. But if you are in your neocortex, that kind of empathy is the third kind of empathy, and it's called cognitive empathy. Neocortex is where we have our logic, our skepticism, our no. If you don't do a good job of selling, the person will say no, because that's the first place, as you can see, that information comes to. So if you're a leader in a company, you want to have more logic, which is in the neocortex. And here's the thing, is if you are not a natural empath, and if you are, you've got 3 steps for cognitive empathy, which make it so easy. And the best part of it is that there is no emotional investment required. So my husband and people in my life that don't like to talk about feelings, they're like, I love cognitive empathy. Okay, so here's the first step. You want to acknowledge the person. So you're you're the leader of a company, and acknowledgement is as simple as, hello, how are you? Think about times when you don't feel like you're being heard or you have a voice. It's usually because someone didn't acknowledge that you said something, that you're in the room. So as a leader, you acknowledge the person's situation. An example would be, let's say Julie is coming to work and she's there all the time, but her projects were late, and you're her supervisor. You're also her friend. So how do you handle this situation? She needs to get her things in on time, but because you're naturally empathetic, you don't want to hurt her feelings. So the thing about acknowledgement and cognition is that you actually take the feeling and you explain it. So let's say I'm feeling hurt because Julie's my friend and she didn't turn it in on time, which it's not personal, right? But that's how it feels. And the second thing is being held responsible for the timing, and she's turning it in late. So acknowledging would be, hey, Julie, I know that you've had trouble turning your projects in on time, and I know that's not your intention. So what I'd like to do is talk to you about some strategies that could set you up for more success, because maybe there's something that's keeping you from turning those in. So that's very logical, right? I was able to express it. I acknowledged her reality without shaming her. Okay. Next is listening. Listen without thinking ahead, like, what am I going to say next? You really want to listen to what people are saying, because if you stop and still your mind, you'll hear the message. How many times have you ever talked to someone, either at work or in your personal life, and you'll say something and the person says back what they heard? It's not even close. And you may not do that. I'm a therapist, so I'll say, what did you hear me say? And some of my friends will say things and I'm like, that's not at all what I said. So the message I sent was not received the way it's supposed to. So that's why you really need to listen, because people who are talking about their feelings or situation, they're coming from that part of the brain that's very emotional. So you need to listen. And curiosity. Curiosity is kind of a lost art. People feel that if they ask questions, they're intruding. So number one, how you ask the question matters. And number two, it shows interest. From how are you doing to that must make you feel frustrated, Julie, that you can't turn your things in on time. I know it would for me, especially when I know you want to. So those are the 3 steps for empathy. And if you notice, I didn't really have to get all emotional. I didn't have to, go, Julie, come on, man. You don't have to go there. Okay, so let's say that you want to do more for leadership, and you've got those 3 steps. But if you want to grow in it, you really have to do these things. Self-awareness. I was reading the other day that only 10 to 15% of our population is truly self-aware. That was a little shocking to me. And also validating, because I'm always trying to find new people to talk to who can get to that level of self-awareness. Because when you're self-aware, then you know what you're feeling when someone does something or says something. And that's when you can take that feeling and turn it into logic. If you don't know what's happening, you're not able to do it. The second thing is to set an intention. How many times have you gone to a meeting and you didn't think about it, or someone else did, and you're not quite sure how to present yourself? I used to work with a company, and a whole line of executives got new titles. And in an effort to be humble, which naturally empathetic people are, they say, titles don't matter. They don't matter to me. They need to matter, okay? Because they matter to other people. When you're out in the marketplace and you say you're a CEO, you need to show up like a CEO, talk like a CEO, use the language. So the empathic, oh, it doesn't matter, it doesn't work in leadership. So you want to set your intention. Why are you going to this thing? What is your goal? Who do you want to meet? That type of thing. It really saves time and it gets you to the goal faster. Team effort. People want to feel a part of. There's a whole thing, is it feeling left out, right? I can't remember that term. But people want to help. So if you get your team involved, hey, team, this is some change that's going on. Change is hard. So I'd like for you guys to give me your opinion, your input. Let's brainstorm together so that everyone takes ownership. And when everyone takes ownership, a team begins to get more trust. And you have to have trust for a team to get to the goal. So these things help you not just in the moment of a cognition and cognitive empathy, it helps you throughout your whole career. And legacy. I work with a lot of Gen X and Gen Z, millennials, and they say to me, Beth, I'm only 32, I'm only 45. I don't need to be thinking about legacy. Well, if you change legacy to reputation, you do. What do you want to be known for? When you're not there, what do you want people saying basically behind your back? I want people to say, oh my gosh, she changed my life. One sentence and I started thinking differently, because I want to have an impact on people. I'm a coach. I want to make people happy. And so if I can help them get there in a way that they can succeed, that's my legacy. And it continues to grow throughout your career. So don't underestimate the meaning and the power of what that is. Okay, so I think it went a little faster than it was supposed to, but this is me. I just recently rebranded my company to the Business of Empathy, which is really, the logic of feelings, right? I was called by a company right as COVID was hitting, and they said, we're burned out. We have 40 employees. We're burned out from too much empathy. And I thought, okay, this would be interesting. So one of the things I use in my practice is 16personalities.com. It comes from Myers-Briggs. So I gave 40 people that assessment, and out of 16 personalities, they fell into 4 categories, all empathy generated, all pleasers. So they were burned out from empathy, from the limbic brain, because they wanted to please everybody. They didn't want to hurt people's feelings. So when you do that, you tend to overfunction. You do things that you don't need to be doing because you don't want the other person to feel bad, right? So that's really what got me interested in the cognitive part of empathy, because what we did was we changed the strategy, we moved it to the other side of the brain and changed the culture, basically. So this is me. Write down information if you need to, and I'd love to get some questions if anyone has any.
Okay. Do anyone have any questions for Beth?
Yes, actually.
Okay.
Hi, Sue.
Who's speaking?
Hi, this is Sue Wilhite.
Oh, hi, Sue. Hi.
Hi.
Go ahead with your question.
And my question was, you're using the 16 personalities based on Myers-Briggs?
It's a derivative from it.
A derivative from that, right?
Right.
What did you ever look into, for instance, using the Enneagram as a personality assessment?
I have, and I've done it and I love it. But for the purposes of what I use it for, I use it mostly for getting a glimpse of that person's personality. a glimpse of the company so that people know how to communicate better. It's not so much a focus on them in this context.
Got
So
it.
I'm not like a personality guru. I do that as a tool to help for the bigger objective. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
But I love the Enneagram. I think I'm a
Yeah.
2 and a 7. I don't know. I love it.
it's wonderful. It's good stuff.
Do you do that?
Not on a regular basis, but for instance, I'm a 7 on the Enneagram, which means that I'm very outgoing. I look for new things, new adventures,
Yeah, that's what
new
I am.
ways of going. And a 4, which is the romantic, that is,
Oh,
oh, woe is me. I can't stand them. I don't want them as clients. So it's
Oh,
very
yeah.
useful for me to pinpoint a 4 on the Enneagram for me as a client, because I would be frustrated. I have been frustrated before I figured this out.
Yeah. So it helps set you up for success
Yes,
with the information.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What is a
So
2?
doing these, say again?
What is a 2 on the
Oh,
Enneagram?
oh gosh, no,
Oh, it's okay.
I don't have it in
It's
front of
okay.
me. I
I
don't
mean to put
remember.
you on
I'm
the spot.
sorry. Yeah.
But that sounds wonderful. Yeah, that's a great tool, definitely. And I know what you mean. If there's, a client that I see, my natural thing is to tell me more about that, about the client that's romantic and bothers you. So obviously that's a coaching question.
Yes, of course.
We won't go down that road.
Right. I would call it an unenlightened 4. How about that?
Yes, I like that. Thanks, Sue. I appreciate the question and the info.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Awesome.
Anybody else?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sue. Any other questions for Beth?
Anybody
Beth,
struggle with empathy?
I have a question for you, Beth.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Krystal.
Okay. So just really quick, what would you say is the most difficult part of being a motivational speaker?
The beginning, writing the attention getter to me is the hardest. I can do write content but it's getting the attention, making sure you know your audience, and getting booked probably. But the motivational part, I'm like Sue, it's natural for me to present and be upbeat. And so I would say writing the beginning is the hardest part for me.
Okay, awesome. Wow, that's awesome. I love your speech. I love the information. I love it. The business of empathy, because I'm that's me.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, here's
yes,
something
that
too, is that when you operate from the cognitive part of your brain, the neocortex, that is actually where executive functioning is. Executive
Okay.
functioning is decision making, strategizing, thinking of solutions, not emotionalizing everything, right? And if we make decisions from our emotions, here's an example. If I'm shopping for a washer dryer, my husband, who's Mr. Logical, you can tell it drives me crazy, right? We're looking and there's 2 identical sets. One is light, beautiful blue, and the other one's white. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I would have so much fun doing laundry with those blue washer and dryer. And my husband's like, it's $1,000 more. It's the same thing. You're paying that for the color. Let's get the white. So that's a good thing. I need that logic then, because I'm like, oh, because I'm never going to love doing laundry. I don't care what color the washer is. But in the moment, I can imagine it like, oh, the story. So that's why making decisions from that place isn't so great, because it's so based on your emotions.
Absolutely. I really enjoy it. Thank you so much, Beth.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of this, and you have a blessed day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much, Beth. Next speaker we have is Sue Wilhite, and she is an experienced business consultant, coach, and a speaker over 25 years of experience. She have the personal and professional development field. She is known for her expertise in helping individuals, organizations achieve their goals through unique approach to strategic planning, leadership, development, and personal empowerment. I want to welcome Sue Wilhite. Hi, Sue Wilhite. Welcome.
Hi, Krystal. Thank you so much.
So welcome.
So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Follow your bliss, and the universe will open doors where before there were only walls. The great mythologist Joseph Campbell says that. I'd like you to put a 1 in the chat if you agree with that. Or even if you've just heard that, follow your bliss, right? Thank you. I want to welcome you to forget your bliss, follow your fear. I want to thank Brian and Krystal for having this wonderful talk, and the PSA for being a fabulous organization to allow us to be up front and allow us to present in these great mini summits. So can I tell you why I love this and I love forget your bliss and follow your fear? Is that okay? Yeah, okay, perfect. So I'm Sue Wilhite. I'm known as the Make It Happen Maven. And I spent over 20 years in business information systems until I got an ulcer. No, the ulcer really changed my life. It was horrible. I've got to say, having a volcano in your belly, not fun. And I was on a drug that I had to take once every 12 hours. And if I didn't take it, I was in incredible pain. And I was very worried because it would cause reflux and my throat would get sore. It was a bad deal. And a friend of mine introduced me to some, what we call in generic terms, mind, body, spirit techniques. And within 24 hours, my ulcer was gone. And that was back in 95, I believe. I have not had an ulcer since. So that completely changed my life. I turned away from my information systems job and I plunged myself into the mind, body, spirit community, and I started my business. And one of the things that I found, having worked in management information systems for so long, I had been learning business from the inside out. I had been doing programming and systems analysis and database analysis for businesses, and I had to learn and took classes in basic business so that when I started my business, I kind of knew what I was doing. I knew sales, I knew marketing, I knew customer service, I knew all of this. And I just went out and started my business. And I found that a lot of people in the business of mind, body, spirit, not a clue. They had a lot of passion, they had a lot of energy, they had a lot of skills, talent, but didn't have a lot of business sense. And a lot of the things that were tripping them up were things that were inside of them that they were not aware of. And it didn't matter how much knowledge they acquired in business, they needed to back it up a little bit and look at themselves. Now, I'm going to give you a lot of information in a very short amount of time, and I cannot give you everything that I know, obviously, in the short time that I've got. But for those of you who want to know more, don't worry, I will let you know how it is that we can work together further if that's something that you're interested in. You ready? We're ready. All right, buckle up. So what happens when you go to follow your bliss? I'll tell you. You get fear. You get the big hairy monsters. And sometimes they're big hairy monsters that have just sunk their teeth in the back of your pants or your skirt, and they're just holding you back. And you don't realize that they're back there. So many people who start a business don't realize that they're actually afraid of making a lot of money. They don't realize that they're actually afraid of growing a business, being popular, getting themselves out there, being present, doing social media, dealing with finances. There's all these fears that come up that people are not aware of in general. And what it ends up being is this: your mind is filled with 1,000 different things that you've got to do. You've got to be, oh, I've got to do social media. Oh, I've got to watch this summit. Oh, I've got to do this workshop. Oh, I've got to take this one more class. Oh, I have to do this. Oh, I have to develop slides. All of these things are just there. I've got to do a pricing structure. And the thing is that those are what I call little f fears that are getting in your way. I've seen it said that many people would rather clean their toilets with a toothbrush than actually do the things that they need to do, like make a phone call or email a potential client, because that's so scary to them. And so I just want to point out to you that there are two kinds of fear. And I'm going to go back one slide deliberately, because I call this big F fear. This is the capital F fear. This is the fear that really a big scary monster is coming out to get you. A bus has just turned the corner when you're about to step into traffic. Those are things that are real physical problems that your brain is exquisitely designed to deal with. When you have a big F fear, your vision goes into tunnel vision, your hearing shuts down a little bit, and you have like a GPS inside of your head that turns on and locks into the best escape route. And you have nothing to do with it. You, as a conscious human being, have zero to do with that. Your brain just, whoop, doof. There they go. So that's a big F fear. And the problem is that when you have these big F fears, you can't think, you can't plan, you can't strategize, because that GPS in your head is doing all of it for you. And it says, oh, there's a big scary monster, must turn, must go this way. And so when you run up against things like money issues, that, having a lot of money turns out to be very, very scary for people, regardless of what they say with their mouths. Whatever they think, having a ton of money, having, $100,000 suddenly drop in their lap is like, yeah, and it turns off the logical, rational part of the brain. What you're really dealing with is a little f fear. It's not a capital F. These are the things that your mind creates that are, oh, what if I can't handle it? What if I lose everything? What if I flub my presentation? What if I do this? What if I do that? Well, those things to your brain turn into big F fears, because your brain can't tell the difference between your imagination and reality. So if you are generating fear, your body treats it the same. So what do you do? What do you do? Here's what you do. You do what you think you cannot do. You face your fear and you tell yourself, if I get up in front of 50 people in an auditorium and I speak, they are not going to rise up with pitchforks and attack me, right? If I suddenly get $100,000 contract dropped in my lap and they pay in 24 hours, that's reason to celebrate. No, that's awesome. You talk to yourself and you get that little big F fear down from it's an immediate danger to, yeah, it's kind of inconvenient and uncomfortable, but I'll do it. Making a phone call to your client, same thing. They're not going to hate you, I promise, unless you're doing telemarketing and you call during dinner time and you want to sell encyclopedias. Not going to happen, right? Then they will be angry with you. But most of the time, if you are calling a potential client, the worst they're going to do is say no. Whoop-de-doo. They said no. They're not rejecting you. Not usually. Not unless you were really obnoxious in the first place. But they're generally not going to be rejecting you. It's just that they do not see in that moment utility for them with what it is that you're offering. It's not you, it's what you're offering. That's a whole nother subject. That's a whole nother talk right there. So you want to find out what it is that you're afraid of. Face it, talk yourself down from the cliff and go ahead and do it. Right? So I want you to do a little exercise. I want you to imagine that 1 year from now, you have an awareness of where your fears are coming from. And I'll give you a clue. They're locked in many cases in your DNA that you have inherited from your family. There's actually 7 different family patterns that people have inherited that get in their way. But when you can get in tune with yourself, then you have the ability to see that pattern, to potentially master that pattern, either by yourself or with help. And you can talk yourself down. So I want you to take in this phrase, when I am in tune with myself, and then you fill in the blank. I can speak in front of large and small audiences. When I am in tune with myself, finances are a wonderful playground to go have fun in. When I am in tune with myself, I can do anything. So I have an offer for you. If you want to know more about what potential family patterns you might be dealing with and get a free recording of your top family pattern clearing session, go ahead and put a 3 in the chat and I will get back to you and we can set up a one-on-one brief conversation, 20 minutes, and we can talk and I can help you get clear of at least one of those family patterns. And you will be in tune with yourself and you could do anything. My name is Sue Wilhite. I'm the Make It Happen Maven, and I want to thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Sue. Do anyone have any questions for Sue right now?
I do.
Okay,
It's
who's
Beth.
speaking?
Beth,
Hi, Beth.
I'm sorry, I'm right here. Yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
something I love that you said was when you said the brain doesn't know if it's true or false, if you tell it. So when you say I am in tune with myself, your brain believes it, right? So that's what calms down the cortisol and everything. So I love that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Beth, for your question. Is there anyone else who'd like to ask Sue a question? Okay, if not, well, I definitely have a question for you, Sue.
Okay.
Okay, so we all know fears. We all have a fear. So, what are the biggest decisions you have made this year?
Hmm. The biggest decision that I made this year is niching down. And before this year, I was a business coach with a side of sound healing. And I finally listened to my coach who said, Sue, you have tech knowledge that many people in the mind, body, spirit community do not have. They might be able to get business information, but they're not going to have tech knowledge. So I pivoted to focusing on my tech abilities and making those available to my clients.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, so I'm going to ask you one more question.
Okay.
Young and adulthood. What is your biggest fear as a child, and do you still have that fear today as an adult?
Oh, that one's easy. I was just telling somebody about this. So I used to have an amazing phobia of bees. I was terrified of bees. I mean, to the point, and I'll just tell a little brief story, that when I was in college, my boyfriend was like 6'2" and he was husky. He wasn't a football player, but he could have been a big guy. And we were at a campground and this yellow jacket came over to investigate what I was eating. And I freaked out and I ran across the patio. And my boyfriend followed me and it was like, oh, come on, it's just a little yellow jacket. They're not going to hurt you. And I'm like, and he put his arms around me, practically in a headlock, and said, no, 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 you're going to see that it's not going to hurt you. And I went, shrug, and I left. I threw him off of me. And years later, as I got into the mind, body, spirit community, I discovered emotional freedom technique or tapping and got rid of the fear. And now we got bees in our backyard. We got bees in our front yard. They love the lavender. I wander out there and go, hi, bees. It's like, do I want one landing on me? No, not really, but I could go outside.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad you got on your fear of bees.
Oh, yeah.
And before we let you go, is there anyone else who have a fear of bees or had a fear of bees?
I can help you with
Anyone?
that. Bees, spiders, water, bridges. I can help with that. I love it.
Okay. So I don't have a fear of bees, but I do have a fear of spiders. I don't know. I don't like them.
I can help you with that. I've done that one on stage, actually, where I've gotten rid of somebody's phobia of spiders.
Okay.
It's really fun.
Awesome. I really love your speech. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay, so wrapping this up, we do have another speaker coming on. Thank you so much, Sue.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we do have a new speaker, Walt Carter. He's a Chief Digital Officer and CIO for Homestar Financial Corporation, with more than 25 years in technology leadership roles. Walt specializes in changing leadership and technology innovation. Prior to joining Homestar Financial Corporation, Chief Digital Officer and CIO in March of 2018, his teams implemented technology changes for primary capital mortgage to drive 205% growth in organization volume in just over 2 years. That's amazing. Before that, his teams at Generation Mortgage received accolades from the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Clippers, Bloomberg, and Market Watch for innovative use of technology as a key differentiator for the company. He won the President's Award for his leadership on their largest commercial project. That's awesome. Walt was named CIO of the Year in 2014 by the Georgia CIO Leadership Association, and more recently has been named to the Constellation Research Business Transformation 150 for 2020 and received the 4th nomination for CIO of the Year in Georgia. His book on change leadership, We Can't Stay Here, is an international bestseller. Amazing. Great job. I want everyone to welcome Walt Carter.
Thank you, Krystal. It's so good to be here with you today. I hope you guys can all hear me, if not see me. It's a great honor to be with you today. I have a couple of things I want to share with you, and then I'm going to run out of the room, to be honest with you. The talk today is on the essence of change leadership. And I don't know if any of you guys can raise your hands. I can only see a handful of you on the screen here, but if you are a person that is responsible for leading a group of other people, and that could be your family, that could be your church group, that could be folks at work, any number of different places in your community. You could find yourself as the head of your homeowners association or your pool club or something like that. But there is no such thing as static life where everything stays the same forever, right? And so you're going to be dealing as a human with change throughout your life. Now let's think about what is the essence of handling change well. What does it mean to be a good change leader? And over the 40 years of my career now, I think I've come up with a handful of things that might help you. First of all, let's talk about what do you want and why is this change going to happen, right? Is it because of something external to you that you have no choice to deal with, but you're just going to have to, reconcile with it? Sometimes it's something you want to change, right? Sometimes it's a change that you feel like you need to make for yourself or for your family or for your job, right? For your team. So, again, what's the root of where is this change coming from? Is it external? Is it internal? That's a good point to start with, because ultimately one of the hardest things for change leadership is understanding the why, as Simon Sinek says, so often and so well. Start with the why. Why are we doing this? Why is this important? How are we going to know we're done when we get to the end of this? And second thing there that's kind of really important to understand is your own why is really important. As the leader, why am I doing it? What am I investing in this in order to really pull this off? And I will tell you that there are a handful of people at any given time that already know deep in their soul who they are, why they're here, and what they're trying to accomplish in their life. And we talk about old souls sometime as if it's a rarity, but truthfully, it's about 3% of the population that are well grounded enough to know really early in life the answers to those questions. Who am I? What am I here for? And what kind of course am I on? For most of us, we're figuring it out. I was talking to a group of very senior citizens at a church group not too long ago. They were all reading The Purpose-Driven Life, and they were anywhere from 75 to 85 years old in that group. And I'm going, why are you reading that book? Why The Purpose-Driven Life? And the answer was, well, we're still here, Walt. So we figured there must be something more for us to do, and we'd kind of like to be on purpose for this last little run, And I'm like, okay, well, that's a good reason. There's a gentleman that I studied several years ago, and he's since passed. His name is Jack Zufelt. He wrote a book called The DNA of Success. And in that book, he taught me that for most of us, we really don't know the answer to that why question. Why do you want that? Well, why do you want that? Why do you want that feeling? And he kind of built what I call a nested group of whys. He just kept asking that question. If you ask over and over again, how long, how deep can you go in your whys? Because eventually you bottom out and you get to the bottom of your whys, or what I call the heart of wisdom, the heart of the whys, which is, now I really know why I want that thing, right? That thing or that feeling or that circumstance is, I really need to know what is driving me, right? Because it may be that I don't really need it in order to feel that feeling. I don't really, right? And so the things that you really want turns out to be very few things. The deep reasons that you have for wanting things turn out to be hard to find, but it's really important for you as a leader to know what is that heart of wisdom, right? What is that that's going to drive us all the way through this change and keep us motivated? And then I want to shift gears and tell you that, over the years, we've used a symbol for change that is essentially called a delta. It's a Greek letter. Delta is the symbol for change. Interestingly, it's a triangle. For most of us, it's a triangle or a pyramid when we look at it. The reason for that is interesting. It is a geometrically stable shape. It is actually the geometrically most stable shape. You can't flip over a pyramid. Those pyramids in Egypt and all around the planet, frankly, are going to be there until the end of time because they're just so geometrically stable. Why do you think change is represented by the most stable shape? I'm going to tell you the answer to that. The answer is because in order for you to affect change in your life, in your group, in your team, in your family, you have to create stability as a leader. That's the essence of change leadership right there. I'll tell you the end of the talk right now, so you don't have to wait till the very end and guess. So if you got lunch, you can start eating. But the bottom line is we use some other words to try to create that essence of leadership, which is stability. And those are words like coherence, congruence, consistency. And let's talk about those just really briefly, right? So coherence. Does this hang together? Does this make sense? Do these things come together in a way that makes sense to me and to my team and to the people that are going to be affected by this change? If you've ever been a follower of someone who is not coherent, they are incoherent, that doesn't make sense. I'm not following you. This doesn't make any rhyme or reason to me. I can't get behind this change. It's very, very hard to follow a leader that's incoherent, right? So then the opposite must also be true. It's a lot easier to follow a leader who is coherent, who has really thought through all of those whys. Why are we doing this? How are we going to know when we're done? What's that going to feel like and look like for us, right? These are really critical considerations. And you can kind of think of coherence as an internal thing. Does this make sense to us as a team? Congruence is another word, interestingly, that starts with con, which means with. It's a an appellation that means with gruence. What is gruence, right? Well, gruence is essentially says, is this something that other people are going to understand as being part of who we are? Are we going to be congruent as we roll this out? Or are people going to go, no, Krystal, that can't be what you're doing because that's completely incongruent with who you said you were. Brian, this is not who you said you were going to be, and it's not how you represented to me. You're being incongruent, right? And again, if you're trying to follow somebody that's leading you in incongruence, it's very difficult to get behind that. So as a leader, you need to be congruent, and you need to understand what that messaging is going to be for those people that are going to be affected outside. Consistency is really about you. It's really a word that says, look, I've got to be internally consistent, externally consistent. It's got to hang together coherently. It's got to be making sense in terms of the congruence, but ultimately it's got to be something that really keeps me on track from a consistency perspective. And let's just, again, use a contrast real quick. If you've ever followed a leader who is waffling, they can't make up their mind. They zig and then they zag. And you're trying to, as a good follower, good team player, you're trying to stay with them. But again, they're making it tough for you because of the zigs and the zags. We've called it waffling, right, over the years. We've also called it waffling. Right? I've poured out a waffle. I got all these different compartments, and I seem to have a leader that's jumping from one compartment to another compartment to another compartment without rhyme or reason. And it makes it very difficult for the people that are affected by your change to follow that, right? And so again, don't zig, don't zag, don't waffle. You've got to create a vision. And so the last word I want to share with you guys is the word that's probably the most important, and that's the word clarity. You, as the change leader, have got to have a crystal clear vision of what it is that this change is going to result in for your team, for your family, for whatever your group is, right? You've got to have crystal clarity around that. So I love having crystal keys as our host today, because it just gels so nicely with, the whole notion. The biggest, most important thing about being a change leader is being a visionary. You've got to have a vision of what the end looks like, and you've got to use tools that are the essential tool of leadership is language. I've got to find words and images in my words that really resonate with the people that I'm trying to get into this change with me. It's got to be their idea, not my idea. It's got to be something they want for their own whys, the same way I want it for my whys, right? Does that make sense? And so this is the art of leadership. It's not a science. And this is also why, in the age of AI, as it's kind of hitting us all in the face right now, it's more and more important every day to be a relational human, somebody that really can connect well with other humans and really get into, for your team, why do they want to come with me on this change? How does this become their own idea and not mine? How do I get to a point where I'm loving them into position instead of forcing them into a position, right? Every time I try to use force to affect change, I get an inevitable human response, which is resistance. If you push me, I push back. If you try to force me, I resist you, right? And so organizationally, this is really important to understand. If you try to use tools that are coercive or manipulative, it'll backfire on you as the leader almost every time. I could guarantee it after 40 years of doing this kind of work. And so, guys, this is really the sum of my talk. So clarity is the most important, because if you have a clear vision, you can adjust everything else that you need to adjust along the way until you realize the end of the change. Without clarity, it's going to be really hard, and you're going to wind up being one of those zigzaggers or one of those wafflers, right? Which makes it hard for the people to follow you, right? You've got to be coherent. You've got to have it all hang together in a way that makes sense to everybody that you're talking to. You've got to be congruent. You've got to be somebody that is predictable and stable in your own behavior set, not wild and out of control, but really fixated on that North Star at the end of the change, right? And then consistent. Again, that's just for you in your interactions with the people on your team. You've really got to drive through to understand them, understand their whys, understand their motivation, and then you be consistent with your messaging. The higher art of change leadership is actually to use other tools besides just language. And in the military, where I spent a good portion of my life, we use music. We use drums and cadence setting tools, right? There are a lot of really cool things that are really old, by the way, because we've been using music and drums and cadence making and inspirational music in particular for thousands of years. Way before the United States became a country, the militaries around the world understood that we're spiritual people. We're not just machines that you just deploy. You've got to inspire people. And that inspiration doesn't come just from your words, although that's important. It also comes from the environment and the context that you set for the change team. And a lot of times you can use music and you can use cadence and periodicity, tools to help you move through the change more fluidly. And, guys, it's been a great pleasure and an honor talking to you today. I've got just a few minutes left to take questions if anybody's got one. And then at 1 o'clock, I turn into a pumpkin. I'm on the East Coast, so forgive me for that. But again, I'm happy to take a question or two if you guys have got something for me.
Do anyone have any questions for Walt Carter right now? Well, you already know. Okay, so who's that?
That's Sue Wilhite.
Hi, Sue.
Go ahead, Sue.
Hi. Well, also come from an IT background, so love it. And I'm fascinated that you guys use music and drumming to do what it is that you do. And how did you persuade management to let that happen?
So it's actually pretty easy, to be honest with you. I ran a big test campaign not too long ago with folks at our mortgage company, and we had everybody in our training room doing the testing, and we did it the first day without any music at all, and just really testing software, by the way, is not the most fun thing on the planet, right? And so second day, I said, hey, why don't we get a background track going, right? Has anybody got any recommendations? And we wound up finding a groove, if you will, on Spotify that resonated with most of the people in the room. It's really hard to find, by the way, a particular kind of music that everybody in your diverse organization is going to want to, kind of party to. But when we turned on the upbeat yacht rock stuff, interestingly, all of a sudden everybody got excited and the productivity went up noticeably.
Wow.
Almost immediately, people started moving faster, and you could kind of see the music was really important. So I'll just leave that there. And once you see that one time, it's really easy to use that tool over and over. Hope that's a good answer. And thank you for the service, Sue. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I do thank you so much, Sue, for your question. I do see a question in the chat for you, Walt. It says, does AI work effectively to market and book gigs versus using during speaking events?
So I hesitate to use AI as a tool for the speaking. I think what I'm finding as a speaker is that you've really got to be authentic. You got to be yourself. And I'll just real quickly tell you, I put a book out not quite 2 years ago. I asked ChatGPT to write a review of my book, and it wrote a wonderful review. It was really awesome. I read through it, and then I was like, wait a second. I was not homeless, and I was not addicted. Where did that come from? Right? So it was a moving review, but it wasn't about my book. It sounded great, but it wasn't my book. It wasn't my content. So you just got to know that a lot of the stuff that comes out of ChatGPT and a lot of these other tool sets it's wrong about 50% of the time. You really got to be a good guardian of what you're using there. And so again, if you're trying to present yourself as a speaker, you really want it to be your voice and your words in your voice. There's some other cool aspects. I had a podcaster friend of mine not too long ago that trained one of the vocal AI generators to speak in his voice. And he had laryngitis on the day of a podcast, and he actually used the tool to generate his voice while he typed in the words. But it was his voice and his words, right? So that's a great example of how that kind of tool can help you, but just be careful, guys. And so again, I apologize to you guys. I got another engagement that I need to get to like right now. But Krystal, back to you. And thank you so much for listening today. I greatly enjoyed talking to you guys today.
Thank you so much, Walt Carter. It was amazing. Thank you. Have a blessed one, okay?
All right. Bye-bye. You guys have a great day.
Absolutely. Thank you, Walt. Okay. Thank you. So that was Walt Carter, very amazing speaker. And now we're going to have another amazing speaker coming up by the name of Julie Reid. And she's a journalist, a confidence and communication coach for Latinas entrepreneurs, a founder of latinastalk.com, a program that provides training in public speaking and personal branding for women entrepreneurs. I think that's very awesome. So I want everyone to give a warm welcome to Julie Reid. Whenever you're ready, Julie.
Thank you so much. Can you all hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Krystal. I am so happy to be here. I would like to share my screen while I present. I'm very excited about this opportunity. I don't get to talk to folks in English that much, so you will excuse me if you are you have a little bit of trouble understanding my accent. I will be slow when I speak so you all can understand. So let me see if I can do it here. Hold on. I believe this is the one for presenting. This is on the way, so let me put it a little bit slowly. So lower right here. Of course, technology. I'm trying to get to the button to hit the presenting, but I can't find it because this thing is blocking. So All right, can you all see my screen? We're gonna just keep it like that, if it's okay. All right, so my name is Julie Reid, and I'm so happy to be here. I am here today to present to you 10 powerful tips to increase confidence and overcome the fear of public speaking. According to a study of Florida University, there is about 75 to 50%, 73 to 75% of people that suffer from the fear of public speaking. And while that might not be true for some of us who are here today, because we are professional speakers, we can all use a little bit of guidance towards becoming a better public speaker. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. I am from the Dominican Republic. I'm from a very, very small village in the Dominican Republic where I grew up. I was very happy. I can remember when I was 5 years old, my mom bought me a toy microphone, and I used to play and play until it broke. I think my mother was really fed up with me talking on that microphone the whole day, because she actually refused to buy me another microphone once that was broken. But me, being the ingenious kid that I was, I knew that we had a lemon tree in the back, so I decided to make my own microphone. So I used to just grab some lemon from my tree and stick whatever stick I could find in the backyard, and I would be walking around with my microphone, because I dreamed about being a public speaker since I was a child, and also being in TV. So that was my whole role when I was a little girl. But then something happened to me. When I was 8, my mom died. And that transformed me into a very different person. I became what you call a gray person. I would not smile, I would not play. I was really self-conscious about the way that I looked. I was shy, my self-esteem got low, and that was pretty much towards, I would say, all the way to towards when I was 19 years old, 20 years old, that I suffer from, I would say, a very, very low self-esteem. So what changed, right? What changed that now I am a broadcast journalist, and I am a local TV and radio personality for the Hispanic community here in Washington, DC. I have emceed numerous big events and galas for nonprofit organizations. I have trained and produced beauty pageants, and I am a former beauty queen. So what happened to me that I went from being very shy and very self-aware and very, my self-esteem was very low, till I transformed myself into what I knew I could become, right? So that is because I tap into the idea of unleashing my inner power. And it is my commitment today to take you to a journey to help you to boost your self-esteem and confidence in public speaking by sharing the knowledge that I have accumulated, which has helped me a lot, and also has helped the many women that I have worked with throughout the years. So I'm going to present to you my first tip today is to embrace your authenticity. Embracing your uniqueness and let it shine through when you speak. A lot of us, especially when we're studying this journey of public speaking, we try to go and find a mentor or try to see the successful public speakers, and we try to emulate and we try to copy what they are doing. But when you are true to yourself and you understand that being authentic is magnetic, that can reach a level of connection with your audience. And also through personal stories and through personal experiences, you are able to inspire other people to do the same, right? So my second tip is preparation. That same study that I have mentioned from the University of Florida talks about preparation, practice, and preparation, practice, and perseverance. So preparation is going to take you to where you need to be, because it will give you the confidence that you will need to stand tall in your audience by knowing that you know your material or your subject inside and out. When you embrace the journey of preparation rather than seeing it as a task, you lay the foundation for a confident delivery. My tip number 3 is visualization. You need to visualize because your mind is powerful. Close your eyes and vividly see yourself delivering a powerful impact speech. See yourself standing tall and exuding confidence, and you will captivate your audience. My tip number 4 is crafting your personal brand. I, throughout my studies and throughout my trainings that I do with my clients, I always tell them you have to stand for something. People have to associate something, whatever you stand for, with your brand. So when I talk about personal brand, I not only refer to your logo, to your website, your social media. Of course, all of that is important and it has to be coherent. However, the way that you communicate your brand with clarity, confidence, establishing yourself as a credible source, as an expert, is what is going to give you the competitive advantage over other people. My tip number 5 is harnessing the power of positive self-talk. There is a quote, I don't remember who said it, but they said that you have to be careful to what you say to yourself because you are listening. So try to not to talk to yourself in a negative way. Talk to yourself the same way that you would talk to the person that you love the most. Replace the self-doubt with empowering self-talk. I can do this. I got this. I am professional. I am whatever mantra or whatever affirmation you want to do. Try to make that a habit, not only when you are about to do a speech, but also in your regular day-to-day life. That will allow you to embrace the positive mindset, and that will help you to boost your self-esteem and your confidence as well. My tip number 6 is to use the language of the body. Your body says a lot even before you open your mouth. So master the art of the powerful body language to enhance your message and exude confidence. Stand tall, maintain an open posture, use your hands for different gestures, and reinforce your words with your hands. For example, if we're talking about numbers, 1, 2, 3, if you're talking about something that is small versus something that is tall, if you're talking about the past versus the future, you can use your hands and articulate to emphasize the meaning of certain keywords, because people might not remember what you say, but they will remember what you do, and that will help on that connection. Versus nobody wants to hear about nothing when a person is acting like a robot and just standing there. So let your body go, embody confidence through your physical presence. My tip number 7. So seeking growth opportunities, embrace a lifelong learning mindset, and actively seek opportunities for growth. When I came across this opportunity to talk about this topic in this summit, I immediately grabbed it, right? Because I know that for me, the more opportunities I get to share my message, the more my authority, or the more I am perceived as an authority in my field. So if you have the opportunity to go speak in schools, graduations are coming, offer, to schools, middle schools, high schools, to talk about certain topics. They are always looking for somebody to address their students. Also, I have partnered with a lot of community-based organizations and also small chamber of commerce. They always have opportunities for you to speak. So seek those opportunities. And I would say also embrace challenges as opportunities for improvement and grow. There is a famous speaker that says that one time he was on stage and his pan ripped. So things are going to come up, at the last minute. Your internet didn't work, your presentation slide didn't show up, like it happened to me right now, or you just simply forgot your notes somewhere in your car and now you have to improvise. So all of those are opportunities for you to grow. Just embrace it, do what you can, and don't dwell on that, just move on. My tip number 8 is connecting with your audience. When we talk about speaking, even though the person that you are speaking to has a more passive role in this conversation, there are still other ways that you can connect with your audience. Look at them in their eyes, do active listening, have empathy, make sure that you are seeing their faces. How are they responding to your message? Are they nodding? Are they like looking all the way? Are they in their phones? Are they not paying attention? All of that is going to signal to you if the message is being well perceived, or if you have to pivot or do some kind of activity to gain your audience's attention back again. So foster a supportive environment that boosts your confidence and amplifies the impact of your message by connecting with your audience. My tip number 9 is embrace vulnerability as a pathway to grow and empowerment. I adore Brené Brown, and she is very big in vulnerability. Actually, the book that she has about vulnerability says that when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, when we show up as who we are, authentics, we allow that to be a path for us to grow. So that is a brave act when you are vulnerable, because nobody wants to know, nobody wants to share their little dirty laundry or their little shame or whatever. But that is also part of being who you are. And when you are vulnerable and you tell things like from the bottom of your heart, you're able to connect at a deeper level with your audience. You have to recognize that even the most accomplished speakers stumble along their journey. They had started, but it wasn't easy for them. So we're not expecting that it's going to be easy for you either. But the fact that you can understand that and you can move on and grow as you go and move gracefully throughout the challenges that you may have in the process, that is a powerful thing, right? And my last tip is celebrating success. Acknowledge and celebrate your success, no matter how big or small they are. Sometimes we want to be too humble, right? And I have a thing that I call the humble brag, when I brag about the things that I have done right, because why not? I'm the first one dwelling on the things that I do when things don't go my way or when things don't go right. So I also take the time to say, hey, look, I did that. And I'm proud of myself for doing that. And I recognize and I embrace, and no matter the little or small that might seem for other people, for me, I have achieved something, therefore I'm growing. So take time to honor your achievements and reflect on your growth. Celebration builds momentum and reinforce your belief in yourself. So as a conclusion today, I want you to know that now you do possess the tools to unleash your inner power as a public speaker. Embrace your authenticity, prepare diligently, visualize your success, develop your personal brand, harness the power of positive self-talk. Let your body language exude confidence. Seek growth opportunity, connect with your audience, and embrace vulnerability as you catalyze your growth. Celebrate your success, both big and small, and let them fuel your journey to greatness. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, we have about 5 minutes to address any questions or comment. And thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Julie. Do anyone have any questions for Julie right now?
I have a question.
Who's speaking?
Taylor?
Taylor?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead with your question, Taylor. Go ahead.
Okay, so Julie, during Toastmasters, a lot of the new members, I give them 2 important tips. The first tip is get as much podium time as you can get, regardless of how that looks like, whether you're giving a speech or if you're doing an activity. The other thing I teach them is how to fail and how to learn from the mistakes that you make to get to the point to where you can start succeed. So my question to you is, of the 10 tips that you gave, which one would you lean on the most?
I think that for me, the one that hits home is to be vulnerable, to embrace vulnerability. When you're able to tell your story, when you're able to tell your story without feeling any shame, without feeling that you're not going to be perceived as an authority because of something that happened to you, you build that connection with your audience. And when you have that connection, nothing else matters. Connection with the audience is, to me, the most important thing. So being able to connect by being authentic to my ideals, by being authentic to my message and who I am as a speaker, that to me wins the day every day. Thank you so much for your question. I hope that answers.
Did I answer your question, Taylor? Where'd Taylor go?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I had to put
Okay,
myself
thank
back
you,
on.
Taylor. That's okay. Okay, I have a question. Since he did say something, you said connecting with your audience is supporting. So really quickly, can you just give us a real quick scenario of when you felt you didn't connect with the audience?
So one day, it's funny. I just got married and changed my name from my last name from Encarnacion to Reid. And I was about to give a speech and I hear somebody calling me Julie Reid. But I'm like, in my head, I'm still Encarnacion, right? I can't remember. So I finally just figured out they were calling my name. So I went to stage, and as soon as I got to the stage, I say, forgive me. You see what the things that women do to please men? I had to change my entire identity. So I don't even know who I am anymore. Am I Encarnacion? Am I Reid? And the women in there start clapping and laughing. And then I say, you see, men, what we do for you? Then them start high five each other. You know, that was a good introduction for me, because I used that just happened as a moment to connect and be relatable to the women in the audience that had to go through changing their names through marriage. So that was one thing that I used to connect with my audience.
Awesome. That's a great story. And congratulations, by the way.
Thank
How
you.
does it feel
Thank you
to be
so
a
much.
married woman? How does it feel to be a
Yes.
married woman?
I'm still getting adjusted to it.
Congrats. I'm engaged, so I don't know how it feels just yet.
Thank you
Hope
so
it's
much.
fun. Thank you so much, Julie. I love your presentation. It was awesome.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, guys. So just give it up for Julie. And we do have another awesome presentation coming up by Taylor Temples. Okay, Taylor Temples is a current member of the Presidential Distinguished Toastmasters Club of Powder Springs, where he has excelled with over 50 speeches. That's awesome. He competed in multiple international speech competitions and has earned the distinct Triple Crown Award and a Triumph. That's awesome. So everyone give it up for Taylor Temples. You ready, Taylor?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Taylor.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like for you to take a look at the man you see before you. See, it wasn't very long ago you wouldn't have recognized me. I was overweight, out of shape. I was a hot mess. My wife told me one day, honey, you need to work on yourself. I shrugged it off, like most guys. I got this, right? But the problem was, I didn't have this. All of this had me. On December the 15th, 2017, I found myself in the hospital, in the ICU. I don't remember much about that week. In fact, much of that week was a blur. But I do remember one day, my doctor walked in. He had a guy with him, an assistant. I always thought that was kind of cool. I always wanted to have an assistant myself. But he looked at me at the foot of my bed And he said, Mr. Temple, you're a very lucky man. Somebody up there must like you. My only thought was, I didn't feel very lucky. But you see, the fact was, I didn't know just how lucky I indeed was. He went on to say that you were within millimeters of this being an entirely different story. He didn't have to explain, and I didn't ask. I knew what he meant, and that got my attention. On December the 22nd, I left the hospital 3 days before Christmas that year. My kids were still little, and I remember thinking, am I going to spend Christmas morning in the hospital? But little did I know on that day, that's when my struggle would really begin. You see, while I was in the hospital, I had 24-hour care. I had nurses, doctors, staff. I had a button for medication, and I had a button for the panic. So basically, at the push of a button, I had all the help and the assistance that I required. The moment I was wheeled out of that hospital, I was on my own. You see, high blood pressure, hypertension had caused me to have a stroke. Unbeknownst to me, on that day, my life was in grave danger. And that's when the fun really began. When I left that day, I was taking 3 different medications for high blood pressure. Anyone who's ever taken blood pressure medication knows it's a process. It's not a quick fix. You don't just take a pill and you're all of a sudden better. And so my process took me nearly a year. During this time, my mood swings were unbearable. My kids didn't want to be around me. My wife didn't want to be around me. In fact, to be honest with you, most days, I didn't want to be around me. So one day I decided I would take my wife's advice. On my way home from work, and every morning on my way to work, I passed by a gym. So one day I decided I would stop. And I talked to people. They showed me around. They were very welcoming. A couple of weeks later, I joined this gym. And I began the process of working on me. I didn't see any changes at first. All of that took time. But I didn't quit. I didn't give up. I didn't stop. I went when I was tired. I went when I didn't feel like it. I even went when we had bad weather. So eventually I began to see some changes, little changes, changes in how I felt, changes in how I looked. I began to respond to life instead of react. Eventually I started setting goals for myself. And on July the 3rd of 2019, I completed Peachtree Road Race for the first time. By most accounts, that's a small accomplishment. But for me, it had huge implications in my life. For me, it was validation on just how far I had come from where I began. My next goal, which I'm currently working on as of now, is to complete a full Ironman. The full Ironman is 26.1 mile run, a 2.2 mile swim, and 112 miles on the bike, all within 18 and a half hours. What I've learned through my struggle is this: that in life, you must find something to both push you and pull you for change. That deep within each and every one of us already resides everything you need for success. I want to share this quote with you. This thought I had was that the greatest gift I never received was to come ever so close to my own mortality so that I could begin to live. And so now I would like to talk to you about, what does it mean to live? What does it mean to live intentional? What does it mean to live with purpose? And what does it mean to soak each and every moment from each and every day when you truly have an appreciation for your life? So let's start with a life of intention. A life of intention means that you pay attention to the details, that you take every moment, whether it's a positive moment or a negative moment, and you take that moment and you use it to better yourself. You see, because I'm not in competition with anyone else. I'm in competition with myself. The person who I was yesterday, I'm trying to be 1% better today and then 1% better tomorrow. So in order to live a life of intention, you must make the most of every single moment that you have. For those of us who have actually had that moment where they came that close to their own mortality, I would say that it gives you an appreciation for life that many people don't ever get. So to live a life of intention. The second, to live a life with purpose. Finding your purpose is your number one responsibility in this world. To find out what it is that you were put on this planet to do. Steve Harvey says that to find your purpose and to find your gift. He says that your gift is what you do the absolute best with the least amount of effort. And so to find your gift and to find your purpose in life is of the utmost importance. For some people, your purpose might be teaching school. For some people, it might be public speaking. For some people, it might be to volunteer to help others. For a homemaker, it might be for her to have a nice, clean, organized home, a happy home that's full of love. And so to find your purpose, to find your gift, to find out what it is that you were put on this earth to do, and then to spend the rest of your life fulfilling that purpose is your utmost and innermost important goal. The last one I want to talk about is the gift of gratitude. The gift of gratitude has taught me a new way of life. And in fact, I've learned that each and every morning before my feet hit the floor, I lay there and I say, thank you. Thank you for my family. Thank you for my job. Thank you for my friends. Thank you for my coworkers. Thank you for my health. And even though I may not be the healthiest person in the world, I can still stand here before you today and I can give a presentation coherently so that you can understand and you can actually see a small portion of my life. Giving gratitude actually starts a whole new life for most people. Understanding that to be grateful. And for most people, what they do is they celebrate gratitude only once a year on Thanksgiving Day. And then the other 364 days, you just kind of shove it to the side and then they really don't think about it again until November 1st as fall hits. So what I would encourage you to do is I would encourage you to each and every day think of one thing that you can be grateful for, one thing that you're thankful for. My wife and I have been married now for 23 years. We have 3 grown kids. We're not rich by any standards. We're not wealthy. But I told my wife and I've told my kids and I've told my family that the number one thing that I'm the most grateful for is the fact that we have stood together throughout all those years. And so to have gratitude changes everything because then you start to look at the world a whole different light. Also, I want to say that along with gratitude comes a positive attitude. Once you become grateful for what you have, then you will be blessed with having more. And so once you start to understand that you're grateful for the small things that you have in life, then you will start to see greater blessings that come your way. Every single day, I'm grateful for even the little struggles that I have. In fact, recently I went to the doctor and I got a small piece of bad news. But the fact is, I didn't look at it in the wrong way. I looked at it like, well, this is just another opportunity for me to be grateful so that I can have something that I can move forward with. And so learning how to be grateful for even the challenges that you have in life will help you enjoy the triumphs in life that you have that much more. So being grateful is of utmost importance. I want to leave you guys with some thoughts that I've had lately about what I'm talking to you about today. Each and every day, I've learned how to develop my personal skills, my habits. And I will tell you this, is that something that I have learned recently is that how you do anything is how you do everything. Anything from making your bed in the morning, making sure your room is neat, making sure your car is clean. All those small, minor details, they will add up. And so how you do anything is how you do everything. So to recap, live a life with intention. Be intentional about what you do every single day and be mindful. Be mindful of what you do. Develop your purpose. Find out your gift and what it is that you do the absolute best with the least amount of effort. And thirdly, live a life of gratitude. Wake up and be thankful for what you have, because what you have is substantial. There are people all around the world who would love to live in your situation. There are people around the world that go to bed hungry, that only make 5, 10, 15 cents a day, and they work all day for that labor. Being in America gives us the freedom to have the opportunities that we want. And so to be grateful for what you have is of the utmost importance. I want to thank you very much for this opportunity and this opportunity to share with you a small piece of my story, because I think that it matters. And I think that someone somewhere always needs to hear your voice, no matter what it is that you have to say. Someone somewhere needs to hear what you say, because they could be going through what you're going through. So get out there, speak often, speak as often as you can, get your voice and let it be heard. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Taylor. Do anyone have any questions for Taylor? Well, you already know I do.
I have a
for you, Taylor.
question.
Okay, yes, who's speaking?
So sometimes it's hard to be grateful for something, you know, when things are not going the way you want them to be. What would you say is a quick tip to go back and center yourself and say, okay, I have to be grateful for what is happening to me, even though it might not be the right outcome right now?
So Steve Harvey has got a quote that I want to kind of share with everyone. He says that everything that you are going through is preparing you for what you ask for. So it could be that you're having a particular challenge in life. It could be something that you're dealing with. And just remember that life happens for you and not to you. And if you develop the right mindset, if you think to yourself positive instead of negative, that right there can shift everything. And so I would say that, yes, there are tragic situations, and yes, people go through things, and we all go through things. I would say that what happens to you may not be your responsibility. However, the way you react and the way you respond to it is your responsibility. And so if you will keep your mindset positive and focused on that, I think you'll find out that everything will work out better.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question. Do anyone else have questions for Taylor? I did see in the chat, Linda, it is a powerful persuasive speech. It really is. So I do have a question for you, Taylor. You said
Okay.
you was in a hospital in December. So was it at that moment where you decided to become a speaker, or was it at that moment where you wanted to find your purpose in life, or did you already know your purpose in life before that happened?
Well, that's actually a very good question, and thank you for that. Actually, what I dealt with at that moment in my life was what I would consider now to be a pivotal moment. And because before that moment, my life was a certain way, and then after that moment, it began the process that led me down the road to bring me to where I am today. And so it was a process that began, and it wasn't a process that happened overnight, because that event actually happened 5 years ago. And so it took a lot of effort to go from ground zero to where I am today. And it took learning how to care for myself and how to understand that what happened for me and not to me. And that was absolutely one of the darkest days of my life. In fact, one of the darkest weeks. And I would say that sometimes you need that tenacity to get back up and to challenge yourself, challenge your beliefs, challenge your thoughts. And like I said, kind of turn it into a positive. But as far as a particular moment, I wouldn't say that there was a moment that I decided that I was going to turn things around. It was just a process of gradual each and every day. And I remember every day as I was going to work, I would pass by this particular gym, and I would see it all the time. And in fact, I had been passing it for a year or so, and it just never dawned on me. And then one day, it just kind of hit me like, okay, this is the moment when I've had enough, and I need to make a change. Because for me personally, it was a physical change, an emotional change, spiritual change, and everything else. And then once I started that change, it kind of led to several other changes. So it's almost like a snowball effect, but it was in reverse. And so once I changed that habit, and then it just kind of led to another habit, and then I decided, well, since I'm doing this, I want to tackle the greatest fear on the planet, which is public speaking. And that's sort of where I came into Toastmasters, and I started speaking, and I started learning how to speak. And again, it was a gradual process that brought me to where I am today. Thank you for that question.
Awesome. Thank you for your answer, because that's, for me, it seemed like you were speaking my words. That's awesome, Taylor. Thank you so much. It's a very powerful speech. I appreciate it. Anyone else have a question really quick before Taylor leaves? Well, thank you so much, Taylor. You're awesome. Very powerful speech, and we enjoy you giving that speech today. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so now we definitely have an awesome speaker by the name of Brian Wagstaff. He is the CEO of Public Speakers Association and the coach. So I want everyone to welcome Brian Wagstaff. Brian, whenever you're ready.
All right. Thank you, Krystal. In fact, I really need to thank Krystal for hosting today. So normally I host all of these, and I don't speak at them very often. I think this is only the second time I have spoken. And so I didn't want to host and speak. So Krystal was good enough to help out today. So I wanted to give you a little bit of my background and how I came about to be the owner and CEO of the Public Speakers Association. So I've been a life coach for almost 4 years. And in the back of my mind, I've always thought I want to be a public speaker. I want to speak in front of large groups. I don't want to just coach one person at a time. I want to be speaking to large groups, especially large groups of men. I mostly coach men. And about a little over 2 years ago, I was presented the opportunity to buy the Public Speakers Association. And at first I thought, that this doesn't make sense. But then the more I thought about it, I thought, okay, this is the way for me to get into public speaking, and it will force me to become a public speaker and get on large stages. So far, that hasn't really happened. I haven't really done that much speaking. And so I've been thinking a lot about my history of speaking. At my church, I've given many speeches, and I did some in school, in college, and before college, in high school and stuff. And I had a lot of fear, sometimes I'd have a lot of fear, and other times everything was great. I could be very relaxed and had no problem with my speaking. So I've been working through some of these issues. What is it that makes me fear speaking? And I think one of the things that I've realized by attending Toastmasters and Speak Up is that at Toastmasters, they judge you, they critique you, and that really is hard for me. So like talking right now is much easier for me. No one is counting how many times I say or how many times I pause too long or use a filler word. So that is one thing I think that I struggle with is, is someone judging me while I'm speaking? So I have a few stories that kind of that I've been thinking about, that this is where my fear of speaking has come from. So the first one happened when I was 4 years old. So when I was 4, I went to preschool, and I loved it. I loved it up until one day when one of my friends threw up in the middle of the floor, in the middle of the preschool. And we had to, all the kids had to move to the other side of the room, and it smelled really bad. And he was really embarrassed, and I was really embarrassed for him. Then after that time, I did not want to go to preschool. My mom couldn't figure it out. Hey, you used to love preschool. How come you don't want to go? So after that, I did not want to go because I had this fear that I was going to throw up and I was going to be embarrassed like this other kid. So yeah, that was a real tragic thing for me. Luckily, like I grew out of it, or when I went to kindergarten, I never thought about it. So maybe it was just the association of that place and throwing up, the place that I was going to. So, and I can even remember the smell of the cleaners that they used to clean it up. Which today still bothers me when I smell that smell. All right, so that was when I was 4 years old. When I was 6 or 7 years old, at my church, we had something going on, some kind of program or something for children. And I had an assignment. They gave me an assignment to do something, and I can't even remember what it was. But for that assignment, I had to call up someone in the church, a lady who was in charge of this event, and talk to her about it. So I'm 6 or 7 years old, and my mom tells me, hey, you need to call this lady. And I said, well, could you do it for me? I don't want to do it. And my mom insisted that I make the phone call. She always insisted that I do things like that, which I'm grateful for, that she didn't do things for me that I needed to do myself. So I asked her, well, what do I say? What if she doesn't answer the phone? And my mom said, well, if she doesn't answer, then just say, hey, is your mother there? Can I talk to your mother? And I said, okay. So I get on the phone, and I hear a hello, and it's a deep male voice. But I still said, hey, is your mother there? Knowing that it wasn't a child I was speaking to, but I still said, is your mother there? Because that was what I rehearsed in my mind. That was the script that I was given. And that was the only thing that I knew to say. unless this lady answered, that I was going to say, "Hey, is your mother there?" And he laughed and he said, "Oh, well, I haven't lived in my mother's home for 15 years or whatever it was. I don't know." And I don't remember what happened after that. I probably hung up. I don't know, but I was really embarrassed. And the fact that he laughed made me feel really bad. So after that, I had a real fear of talking to people on the phone, which actually has hurt me in business, where I didn't want to talk to someone if I didn't know what to say, or if I didn't know them, if I didn't have a script that would of what I was going to say. I didn't want to do that. All right, so then that was when I was 6 or 7. When I was 14, at my church, we had a youth conference where kids from all over the area came together for a weekend to have some social activities and some spiritual activities. And I was really excited about this. So I'm 14, going to a dance. I never really danced before in public, but I got through that I made it okay. And it was all right. But then the second day, we were all in the gym. There's like 400 people there probably. And there's a speaker, and he has a blackboard up on the stage, and he started calling on people to come up and help him with his presentation. And I was sitting there wearing some white football shoes that were very noticeable. So I think you should be able to see them now. So I was wearing these white, not these exact ones, but just like them, white football shoes. And I was wearing slacks and a polo shirt. So I was supposed to kind of dress up. And somehow I thought that it would be cool to wear football shoes. I don't know where I got that idea. But anyway, so the man given the presentation, he said, "Hey, you with the white shoes, could you come on up here?" And I was like, "Oh no." So I went up, and he's standing there in front of the board, and he says, "Hey, I want you to write all of your best attributes or your best qualities. Write all the best things about you on this board." And I was like, no way, I'm not going to do that. And he asked, "Hey, why won't you do it?" And I said, "Well, because I don't want to boast. I don't want to seem conceited." And that was exactly what he wanted me to do. He wanted me to not want to write all of my good attributes on the board. And he made an example of me. It's like, hey, none of us really want to boast about ourselves. And so then he eventually let me go sit down, and I was just mortified. And it ruined the entire rest of the weekend for me. The rest of the conference, there was like a dance that night. I didn't want to see anyone because I felt like everyone was still like laughing at me for, having to go up on the stage and be embarrassed by this older man. So anyway, and then I even worried about it. Like a week later, I thought all my friends were still probably thinking about that thing that I had to go through. All right. Then another thing happened when I was still 14. I was a member of the band. I had a concert. It was Christmas time, and I played the trombone. And there was a section in our section. There was 6 or 7 trombones, and we were playing Christmas music. It was fun music. And there was a part in the music that was written for baritones. That's similar instrument to the trombone, but different. So the baritone part was also included in the trombone music. And this was in case the band did not have any baritones, then the trombones would play that part. And so our band director told us, "Hey, we have baritones. So trombones, please don't play this part. It's for the baritones." And so the night of the concert, when we got to that part, I stopped playing. I put my trombone down, but all the rest of the 5 or 6 other trombones, they all played, even though we were told not to. And I even tried to get one of my friends sitting next to me to stop playing. I was like, hey, stop playing. We're not supposed to play this part, but he kept playing. And I was embarrassed. I didn't know what to do. I thought, well, maybe I should just start playing, but I didn't even know where they were in the music. I'd lost the place. Anyway, so I left there thinking that everyone must have gone home saying to themselves, oh, that was a great concert, except for the one trombone player who didn't play with the rest of the trombones. You know, that's what was going through my mind. And I had a bunch of friends that were there as well from another school that came over and were watching, wanted to see me and everything. So I was really embarrassed about that. All right, so that happened when I was 14. When I was 16, and then also when I was 18, there were some things that happened with friends of mine that made them think that I thought I was too good for them, or that I had more money than they did, and they didn't have as much money as my family did, and so therefore they felt like they weren't welcome, or that I was looking down to them, which I was not. There was just 2 misunderstandings, but they thought that I was thinking I was too rich for them. And so those 2 experiences also made me not want to have money, honestly. So since then, I have not wanted anyone to know about how much money I have. If I had got a new car or something, I didn't want them to know where the money came from. Or if someone asked me when I was working, about how much money I made, I didn't want to share that information with them, because I didn't want anyone thinking that I was thinking I was better than they were if I had more money than them. So what do all these stories have in common? And the thing that they have in common is that they're fears that I've had. Fear of failure, fear of success, or fear of being seen. And I for a long time, I never thought there was such a thing as fear of success. I always thought, oh, I only have fear of failure. Oh, I don't want to be seen as a failure. But there is a fear of success. If you, because I thought, oh, if I have success, then I will have money, and that's a bad thing. And I don't want anyone to look down on me because I have money. But I think that the main one, I think, is my fear of being seen. After these experiences when I was little, they made me fear being on the stage. I didn't want to be up on the stage trying, at the blackboard and having everyone look at me and everyone looking at my white shoes. After that, I definitely didn't want to wear white shoes, or especially athletic shoes with dress pants. That was crazy. Anyway, all right. So we all have negative experiences from when we were growing up that shape us. But it's the stories that we tell ourselves that determine what we do about our negative experiences. And so I started looking at, okay, what is the story that I'm telling myself in each of those situations? And when I was 6 or 7 making that phone call, and the man saying or laughing, my mom doesn't live here. I don't live with my mom. Ha ha ha. The thing that it never occurred to me until I was talking with a coach, one of my coaches, about this. It never occurred to me that maybe the reason he was laughing was because he thought I was really cute, that I was doing something cute. And 6-year-old kids can be very cute. They say cute things, and when they do cute things, we laugh. And actually, I learned that with my own children. They would do cute things and we would laugh and they'd say, "Why are you laughing?" And we had to explain, we're not laughing at you, we're laughing, or it's just a reaction for when we're cute. So the story I could have been telling myself was, he's laughing because I said a cute thing, or I am so cute. That could have been my story. And it wouldn't have been, then I wouldn't have been embarrassed. I wouldn't have been thinking poorly of myself. All right. What about like the concert when I wasn't playing with the rest of the trombones? I could have told myself, well, that there are different parts. There's like first, second, and third trombone parts. So, I mean, there's times where the first and second trombones play and the third trombone doesn't play, which I think I was playing the third trombone. And so I could have just said, "Hey, the third trombones, they didn't play that part." And no one would really care. Why was I telling myself that the concert was ruined because I didn't play with the rest of the trombones? That's crazy. And actually, I'm pretty sure no one was thinking that as they left the concert. And that reminds me of one of my favorite sayings. And that is, it's a saying from Eleanor Roosevelt. She said, "You'll worry less about what people think of you when you realize how seldom they do." So one more time, you'll worry less about what people think of you when you realize how seldom they do. So lots of times people are thinking, crazy things about us, and they're not thinking about, they're really not thinking about us. So we should not be worried about what other people think of us. The other thing that I like to think about is if you're going to tell yourself a story, because we all tell ourselves stories, things happen and we interpret them, and then we put our own story in our head. So if you're going to tell yourself a story, make it a good one, make it a good story. All these experiences, experiences are neutral. They're neither negative or positive. It's just how we interpret them. So we don't have to interpret everything as being negative. We can make it positive and put that positive story in our head. All right. So that's my talk my speech for today. And thank you for your time. And if there are any questions, go for it.
Is there any questions for Brian? Well, really quickly, Brian, we have 1 minute, so I do have a question.
All right.
You said you said you have a fear of being seen as a speaker. Is there any fear in life that you have outside of speaking? One fear.
Outside of speaking.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, I've watched a lot of survival shows and stuff, and I've seen them like people like camping out with like snakes and crocodiles and alligators and stuff. And I don't think I could sleep if I knew that there was snakes, or there could be a snake come in my shelter. So
Absolutely. That's one of my fears as well. Outside camping.
Yeah.
Can't do it. Thank you so much. Is there any questions, any comments before we close? Well, thank you so much, Brian.
You bet. And thank you, Krystal.
You're welcome. Have a good one, guys.